When GTA 6 comes out, people will talk about graphics, chaos, missions, but some of us will just be driving through the city at night. No destination, no purpose, just that feeling of something real. This isn't a video about the game. It's about us, about why a fictional city can feel more alive than real life, and what that says about the way we think, remember, and escape. Maybe you grew up with San Andreas. Maybe Liberty City felt more familiar than your own town. Or maybe, like me, you'll find yourself watching the sunset in GTA 6. Not for the mission, but for something quieter. Something you don't even have words for. This is a reflection, not about the game, but about the space it creates inside us. Let's begin. There's a strange kind of memory that forms around places we've never physically been. You can close your eyes right now and remember the curve of a street in Los Santos, the sound of the rain in Liberty City, the way the light falls on a car window as you idle near a beach you'll never step on. It's not real, but it feels that way. And maybe that feeling matters more than the map. You weren't supposed to attach to these places, but you did. And the reason why is deeper than nostalgia. Your mind doesn't sort memories by what's real. It sorts them by what's felt, by what stayed with you, by what lit something in you, even just for a moment. So when you wandered through Vice City with no destination, it wasn't about winning or unlocking something. It was about being somewhere that made sense, a place that moved at your pace, where the music followed your mood, and where, somehow, you belonged. Because sometimes, the cities we escape to understand us better than the world we live in. They don't ask you to explain yourself. They don't remind you of what you haven't done, or where you're falling behind. They just exist, waiting, and you're allowed to exist inside them too. And maybe that's the most powerful thing of all, to feel like you belong, even in a place that isn't real. It's easy to think this is just sentimentality, but it's not. This is how the mind heals. This is how the self regroups, by finding stillness in unexpected places, even digital ones. There's no rule that says meaning has to be physical. In fact, some of the strongest emotions you've ever felt happened in places no one else could see. Dreams, memories, games, moments behind a screen that still shaped your inner life. So when GTA 6 launches and people flood in for the chaos, maybe you'll be doing what you've always done, driving nowhere, just to feel something again. Just to remember that presence doesn't have to mean purpose. And maybe, in some quietly poetic way, that's more real than anything outside. There's a reason we feel drawn to digital worlds. It's not just the freedom, it's the clarity. In games, the rules are known. If you break them, consequences follow. If you follow them, the world responds. There's structure, feedback, logic, even inside the chaos. Real life isn't always that generous. You can do everything right in reality and still feel lost, still feel like nothing's changing, still feel like you're invisible. But in a digital world, when you take a step, the world notices. A light turns on, a sound plays, a door opens. It might not be real, but it responds to you. And sometimes, that's all we need. You see, the appeal of games like GTA isn't just escapism, it's affirmation that your presence matters, that your actions ripple outward, even if it's just pixels and sound. In real life, we often move through days without that feeling. We wonder if anyone noticed, if anything we did changed the shape of anything. So when a game like GTA lets you press a button and watch the world shift, when it lets you drive into the hills and the sky changes to match your mood, it feels like the world is finally listening. There's no shame in finding comfort in that. In fact, there's something deeply human about it. Our minds crave environments where we feel seen, even silently, where space reacts, where effort is mirrored, not because we're shallow, but because we're wired to seek resonance. And resonance is rare in the real world. In a digital city, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be productive. You don't even have to be understood. You just have to be present. And the city lets you in. It's funny. People often say we play games to escape reality. But what if it's the opposite? What if we escape into something that finally reflects the way we wish reality would feel? Because in Los Santos, or Liberty City, or wherever GTA 6 takes us next, you don't need a resume. You don't need to explain your past. You don't need to have it all figured out. You can just exist, in motion, wandering, curious, silent, and the world, even if it's digital, holds space for you. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't ask why you're here. It just allows you. That kind of psychological safety is rare, and sometimes we have to find it wherever we can, not because we're giving up on life, but because we're human. And sometimes the safest place to breathe is the one that doesn't ask anything of us. So maybe that's why we keep returning to these cities. Not for the missions, not for the explosions, not even for the story, but for the quiet, for the streets that don't ask us to be anything other than who we are right now. Unfinished, uncertain, still welcome. There's a kind of nostalgia that doesn't belong to a place, but to a feeling, a screen, a sound, a map you memorized without meaning to. For some of us, we didn't just play GTA. We grew up in it. Liberty City wasn't just a level. It was the place you went when you didn't feel like yourself. San Andreas wasn't just a map. It was where you wandered when real life was too loud. And Los Santos? It became a place where time stood still, where you could just be for a while, without anyone asking why. Games like GTA didn't just entertain us. They raised us in small, strange, silent ways. When the world felt too complicated, the streets of Vice City felt simple. When the people around you didn't understand, the radio in the car did. And when you had no words for what you were feeling, the sunset over Vinewood spoke for you. That's the thing about digital nostalgia. It's not just about fun or freedom. It's about belonging somewhere, even if no one else gets it. You might remember a single street corner in GTA 4 more clearly than your actual childhood home. You might remember the sky color at 7 p.m. game time more vividly than your actual birthdays. And that's not weird. That's human. Because memory doesn't care if it was real. It only cares if it mattered. And the truth is, some of our most formative years weren't spent in schools or cities. They were spent in loading screens, in safe houses, in stolen cars with the radio on. Not chasing chaos, but chasing quiet. It's why GTA 6 won't just be a game to some people. It will be a return, not to a franchise, but to a part of themselves, to a time when everything felt more open, more fluid, more possible. Back when you could ride a bike through the suburbs of San Andreas and feel like the world was infinite. Back when nightfall in a pixelated city still felt sacred. And maybe that's what we're holding on to. Not just the game, but who we were when we played it, who we needed to be, who we became when the headset came off and the world felt too sharp. Because the beauty of growing up digitally is that you never lose those places. You carry them in your reflexes, in your playlists, in the way you turn the wheel gently while driving at night in real life, like you did in game. It's not just a memory. It's muscle. It's imprinted. So when GTA 6 arrives, it won't just be hype. It'll be emotional recall. And the city, wherever it is, will feel instantly familiar, like a dream you forgot you had, like a story that continued without you, but left the door unlocked. That's what games like this do. They leave space for you to return, not as a player, but as a person. Not because you're chasing missions, but because you're chasing a piece of yourself, one that still remembers how it felt to be free in a world where nothing was expected of you. What does it mean when something fictional feels more real than the world we wake up in? Maybe it means we're broken. Or maybe it means we've been paying attention. There's a strange truth at the heart of games like GTA. They let us see what life could be, not in the fantasy, but in the freedom, in the flow, in the simplicity of being somewhere without needing a reason. In GTA 6, you'll walk past strangers having conversations that don't involve you. You'll see birds fly across a sky you can't touch. You'll hear the hum of traffic on roads you didn't create. And somehow, it'll feel more present than your own neighborhood. Because in the game, the world reacts to you. Even the silence feels designed. In real life, that silence can feel empty. But in these digital cities, the silence feels full, like it's waiting for you to step into it, like you're supposed to be here. That illusion, the illusion of a world that wants you, might be what makes it feel more real than the one we're in. And maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe it's a message. Because sometimes, what we call escapism is just our way of returning to something we've lost. Stillness, agency, meaning, a sense that you're allowed to exist without having to prove your worth. Games don't ask you to justify your pain. They don't ask you to be more positive, more successful, more productive. They just ask you to press start. And for many of us, that was the first space that felt like ours. So when GTA 6 comes out, people will talk about its scale, its realism, its boundaries. But the real boundary it breaks is quieter. It reminds us that realness isn't about physics or pixels. It's about feeling. It's about how a quiet drive through neon streets at 2 a.m. in game can unlock emotions you haven't felt in years. How standing still in the right spot can bring back a version of yourself you forgot was there. How a game, just a game, can make you cry without a single word spoken. That's not just a glitch in the matrix. That's a mirror. Because maybe the most real thing about GTA 6 isn't the world it builds, but the world it reveals inside us. A world of longing, of memory, of untold thoughts and unspoken goodbyes. A world that knows how heavy it can feel just to exist, and still offers you space anyway. That's what people miss when they dismiss these games as distractions. They're not distractions. They're reflections of how human we still are, of how badly we want to feel grounded, even in a place that isn't real. So yes, GTA 6 might feel more real than real life. Not because it's more detailed, but because it's more intentional. And maybe that's what we've been craving all along. A world that listens, that holds us, that lets us breathe. Not perfectly, not endlessly, but just enough. Enough to feel alive again. Even if it's just for a while. Even if it's just behind a controller.